Okay, so I've been hearing a mix of opinions now that the full chapter of Boruto, chapter 41, has been released regarding what's going on in this big battle of the new Team 7 versus Boro. On one half, you got fans that are saying, yo, the pacing is slow, not much is going on, Boro ain't looking like the big threat that they would like him to kind of, look like. And then on the other half, you got people saying the opposite, that, yo, Sarada's taking a leadership role, they're using actual strategy to take him down. He actually is doing some stuff. We got a big revelation exactly of one of his abilities that is like nuts right now, regarding which I don't think any of the other card members have displayed this ability yet. So there's a mixed bag right now. I'm going to give you guys my 2 cents on the whole thing and kind of break down exactly what's going on in this latest chapter of the fight against Boro. Let's talk about it. No matter how you move, get it done. No matter how you move, get it done. So the chapter picks up from when the last one left off. The new Team 7 is currently struggling, trying to figure out a way to take down Boro. Of course, in the last chapter, they got hit with that mist. Everyone except Sarada, I want to say, was hit with the mist. So they're trying to understand exactly what it is that's going on, because the karma mark wasn't able to swallow it or absorb it. So it's like, well, if you can't absorb it, then what exactly is this? And in the chapter, we find out that it's essentially a virus that is kind of brought out ninja tool style, in a way, like science ninja tools that like Kawaki introduced back earlier in the manga. And that's one of the reasons why karma can't do it, because it's more of a physical thing than just like a chakra created element of a sort. So one of the things is, again, it's just reaffirming what we kind of already know, that these are cybernetic beings. I mean, if you think about it, that's probably the reason why that's one of his abilities is mist, is because he's essentially like an android. He's a giant robot with like man-made things inside of him that is not just chakra created stuff. So the mist is actually like a more organic or physical matter. And of course, one of the things that I like there's a mixed bag with this chapter. Like, I'm not gonna deny that, yeah, it does kind of seem a little bit slow paced to a certain degree, but I think the main reason why we're feeling that is simply because this is a monthly manga, and when you wait a month, yeah, sometimes you want big shit to happen, but big shit can't happen every single chapter. And don't get me wrong, last chapter was probably, I'd argue, maybe a little slower than this chapter, because again, we got some pretty big reveals regarding Boro, regarding how to take him down, and a couple other things with this chapter that kind of made it progress a little bit better. But I could totally see why people are saying that it feels slow, because for a monthly release, it's like, if this was weekly, hey, it'd be fine. We'd be able, okay, the fight is still ongoing, but with a monthly, it's like, it feels like it's slugging along a little bit. But to a certain degree, I can't completely say, that it's sluggish, just because some stuff went down. Again, for starters, Mitsuki using his analytical abilities, and I love that, it always goes back to his parent, and I think that's one of the core elements that they constantly like to keep intact, that like, yo, he got this from his parent, or this character, it's because of their lineage or whatever. Like, this one is really putting the emphasis on this generation outdoing the last, which, don't get me wrong, that was a very pivotal message of Naruto in general, but I feel as though this one focuses in, because we know all of their parents, and because we had such a journey with all of these kids as parents, it feels more like, oh, it's right there in your face that, yeah, Mitsuki, he swallows the mist with his snake because that's something, his father once did, things of that nature anyway. So it feels as though it's pushing that message forward. And again, it's just showing how strategic they're being. And I could see, honestly, original OG Naruto fans that complained that, like, as the story progressed, it became more about, just big chakra battles and all this stuff, that this is going more back to the basics, in terms of like, they really are breaking their heads trying to figure this out, how to take him down using strategy and teamwork. Because after they kind of get an idea of what's going on with the virus and what, this mist is that Boro's been releasing, I thought it was dope. And I am gonna lie, I was hyped when Sarada just went on her own to face Boro. I was like, yo, she's really taking up the leadership role. Like, I don't care, I say this, I'll say it every chapter that Sarada does something epic. This is what Sakura should have been more like. This is the character that I wish she would have been. Now, people argue, oh, but it's because she has Uchiha genes, whatever. It doesn't matter. She's the female of this group. She's, now it's a 4-man cell, obviously, with Kawaki for however long that's going to be. But she really just embodies badassery when she just shows up by herself. Even though, of course, you got to know, like, yo, they have a plan. They're not just going to fall back and let, Sarada, you handle this big motherfucker. We going to relax right now. We going to chill. You do your thing. But when she shows up and goes up against him by herself, I'm like, this kid got balls. This kid got balls. Well, you know what I mean. And after going at it with Boro, I thought, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, yo, Sarada just blew dude's head off using her fire style jutsu. I'm like, this is why Sarada is amazing. This is why I put up a poll on Twitter the other day, and I was like, yo, out of the 4 characters of the new Team 7, who do you think is the most interesting, or who's just the best character? And I want to say Sarada won that poll by a very, very small margin, but my vote was for Sarada, because like, she put together this strategy. She blew his head off on her own, and had he been a normal shinobi, it would have been over, because then following after her blowing his head up, their strategy continues to move forward, and then they use karma to Kawaki and Boruto smash in, and after he loses his head, he loses a piece of his torso. And that's where I'm like, okay, Boruto is entering an interesting territory. Because after that, you would assume like, yo, this big hunk of metal he's done for. But it is revealed in this one that Boro has a technique that I'm not that fond of. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen it in, it's a Dragon Ball Z staple ever since, what was it, Cell? He can regenerate, and he can regenerate a lot, because he's there just like half of a torso and legs, and he's able to regenerate his entire body. So you definitely see that the technology that they're using, or that, you know, Jigen and the scientist guy in particular are using to create these members of Kara, it's on a whole other level. They're not just like robots, they're like kind of organisms in a way mixed. It's kind of like Cell. Like it's reminding me of a mixture of, if you think about it, he has like Android 16's big husky design, Cell's regenerative properties, and at the same time his own personality, which it still hasn't really died, other than, okay, he's kind of like an older asshole. I'm hoping we get more of his character as it progresses, other than he's just like a bodyguard, big buff, angry dude, and he's not really that angry, so you can't even say that's a character trait. So hopefully we get more of who Boro is, but then that's when it's introduced that he's able to regenerate. And again, I want to say that's exclusive out of all the Kara members we've seen thus far to him. I mean, I think Jigen was able to do it as well, but we're now understanding what Jigen really is, or who he really is. But Delta, if I'm not mistaken, when she got smashed up, they had to bring in a whole other Delta body or robot and shit like that. So Delta wasn't able to do that. And I'm pretty sure Kashin Koji can't, but don't quote me, we haven't seen him in combat yet. So right now it's showing that he basically can regenerate. How I feel about that, I mean, I've seen it in shonen manga and anime so much, and I don't want to hold just because like, oh, it's a cliche in a way, but it does make it like, well, then how the hell are you supposed to stop this dude? Not only does he have this mist that thankfully they came up with antibodies, even though it seems like, hey, he was able to do that on the fly, figure it out, but you got to remember the very, very strong intellect that Mitsuki has alongside with Sarada, with her Sharingan, and able to recognize and everything. So they were able to put together antibodies, so the mist ain't really going to be an issue anymore. But now that he's able to regenerate, I'm curious to what extent, because if he lost his head, it's not like the whole nucleus argument that Cell had. Like, as long as that's intact, what is it that would, like, do they have to basically destroy every single part of his body, or is it going to have to take it a step further? They're going to have to figure out a way to seal him. Like, how do you defeat somebody like that that is astronomically strong and able to regenerate and also has all these tricks up his sleeve? But you can see that he is getting desperate, so who knows how many times he can regenerate, or exactly what is the extent of that ability, because then towards the end of the chapter he starts making a mad dash at Naruto's gourd, you know, where he's sealed in right now, and is basically trying to push their hand and mess up their whole strategy that they got going on, which, don't get me wrong, it already seems desperate of a situation for them, but it makes me just wonder the extent of what Boro's capable of if he's going to those measures now against these kids. Because if he's getting that desperate this early on to head toward the gourd to kind of mess their minds up and everything, why? Like, you just were able to regenerate from their massive attack of karma and getting your head blown off and everything. So I am wondering how strong Boro is. Overall, to be honest with you, the chapter, it was revealing more of the extent of Boro's power. That was one of the big key things. He can regenerate. It also gave us a solution to the problem of the cells, you know, this virus. Well, we find out what the mist is, that it's a virus, and then we kind of get a solution to that. So it gave us some interesting things, but I guess one of the things is, like, I would have liked it more if we would have found, all right, this is the actual 100% solution to defeating him, because basically in the end is more like, oh, he's getting a little desperate, he's heading toward the gourd, but yeah, they don't really have any other strategy right now to be able to defeat him, because he's able to regenerate. So that's a kind of little thorn in the road right now until we figure out exactly how to take Boro down. That's probably why I felt like slow paced, because we still don't have answers on how to take him down, and the fight's been going on for a couple months now, even though it's technically 2 chapters. I mean, overall, I thought it was a dope chapter. I didn't feel like it was a bad chapter per se. Maybe we could have got, again, I think the biggest thing would have been like if we had a sure way to, oh, this is how you defeat him, because now we're kind of back at square one. when we had strategy initially in this chapter on how to, you know, take him down using a 3-man attack with Sarada leading the way for the 4th person. Now it's like, well, shit, he can regenerate. And also Kawaki, a little convenient that, you know, you're fighting for your life against this guy. Maybe you should have remembered that he can regenerate. I'm just saying that would have been a little bit helpful, fam. But I'm curious what you guys think about it. Again, I've seen a mixed bag of people going back and forth on it. How do you feel about this chapter? How do you feel about Boro's ability to regenerate? How do you feel that they figured out a way around the mist so that's not really an obstacle anymore? I mean, how are they gonna stop this dude? He's able to, like, he's like Cell or a Majin Buu at this point. I want to lean more towards Cell because, again, it's just reminiscent of the androids and Cell and stuff like that. So do you think that there's going to be a different way? Or are they gonna have to seal him? I mean, obviously there gotta be a different way, but how are you gonna take somebody down like that, especially that they don't really have a plan right now? And how do you feel about the pacing? You think this fight is going too slow? Or, I mean, I guess next chapter they hopefully will find some type of way. At the very least, we need an answer in the next chapter, like, okay, this is definitively what we're gonna have to do in order to take him out. Or, you know, get, I don't want to say a victim. I don't think anybody's dying in this fight against Boro, but something big needs to happen in the next chapter, because this one, it kind of felt like, well, he's still even more unstoppable than we previously thought. And your overall thoughts and expectations for Boruto chapter 42 and beyond, last chapter of the year. Wish it would have went out in a little bit more of a bang. It's like, okay, Boro's way stronger than we thought, which is good. I like that it's building him up, but I'm just not a big fan of regenerating, because it's like we're punching out a brick wall essentially and getting no results. Still have for this one though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links of course are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in.
Enjoy the next ride, but I was the best ride. But I